Welcome to Christian Cliffhangers, Episode 2, with Thane and Michelle Woods. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Thane. Our guest for this episode is Janice Thompson. An award-winning author, Janice has published over 100 books for the Christian market and was the 2010 Barbara Hartsong Author of the Year.
Now, we must apologize to Janice and our listeners. We did this interview in November, but due to some technical difficulties...
Being that Michelle wanted to re-record herself.
Only in a few parts.
Yeah, but she got laryngitis, pneumonia, the flu.
Anyway, we have it done now, so we hope you enjoy listening in.
In November, we gave away 3 of Janice's books, which you'll hear us talk about in the interview. However, stay tuned because at the end of the podcast, we'll tell you how to win a Kindle edition of Janice's new book, The Dream Dress.
Welcome, Janice, to our show. We're glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be with you guys this evening.
We are so excited to get to talk to you, too.
Thank
Michelle
you.
said that you were wearing a wedding dress. Is that... No.
Well,
But we'll never know because it's audio.
I'm dressed this evening, but I have a book coming out about a wedding dress designer. So,
is that going to be in the Weddings by Design? Is that going to be in that series?
Yes, it is. The very next one coming out is called The Dream Dress.
Oh, cool. When does that come out?
Comes out in February, I believe.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. We've been trying to prepare for this interview by offering the first 3 books in this series as a free download for a winner for our blog and Facebook. So a lot of the ladies are really excited to have all 3 books. We're going to give them an Amazon download.
A gift card?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So they can do
Great
that.
idea. Thank you so much for helping me spread the word about my books.
Oh, well, they're so awesome. Yeah. It's not hard to do. So you've got part of Bella's family in this, and you start off with Bella in the book Fools Rush In, which I absolutely love. What inspired you? Do you actually know some family like this that helped bring about the characters and the chaos?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I have only ever been a bridesmaid one time in my entire life, and it was about, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. Really good friend of mine from Texas was marrying a guy from a very large Italian family. Oh. And they were getting married. Yeah, they were getting married up in Washington State, just outside of Seattle by a couple of hours. And so she asked me to be a bridesmaid. And so on the night before the wedding, we were all staying at this lodge together. On the night before the wedding, the Texans prepared barbecue and the Italians prepared a feast of Italian food. And they merged forces, and so we had sort of a Tex-Italian night. I think I must have filed that in the back of my brain somewhere. Didn't really plan to use that experience in a book, and honest to goodness, the night I sat down to start writing Fools Rush In, that first book in the Weddings by Bella series, I truly didn't even know I was going to be starting a book that night. I was on a vacation visiting my sister at her house, and everyone had gone to bed. I was sitting there with my laptop, and she had no internet, so I couldn't be distracted by social media.
Yeah.
So I just sat there and saw that little cursor blinking in my Word file, which was an empty file, and I typed this line. The line was, if Uncle Lazaro hadn't left the mob, I probably wouldn't have a story to tell. Well, as soon as I typed that line, I was like, gosh, I wonder who Uncle Lazaro is. And then my next thought was, well, if he's an uncle, I guess this story, if I'm writing a story, is going to be from his niece's perspective.
Yeah.
And gosh, he was in the mob. That's crazy. So honestly, it all just unfolded from there. I have a very overactive imagination, as you probably have gathered.
Yes.
So it just kind of unfolded. It was one of those truly miraculous story ideas that came like that. Most of my stories are carefully plotted out. I'm such a plotter. But when it came to Bella, I'm telling you, there was nothing plotted. The only thing was that incident with that Tex-Italian wedding that I must have filed away in my imagination.
Oh, that is funny. How many books do you have her in or have branched off from Fools Rush In? It seems like it's just taken over.
It's morphing. Yes. Okay, so it started with the Weddings by Bella series. which had 3 books in it. And then my publisher wanted me to do a series outside of Texas, so I did the Hollywood books. And there were 3 Hollywood books in the Backstage Pass series, but I mentioned Bella in passing in those. And one of the main characters, Brock Benson, played a pretty key role in that series. So then I decided to sort of merge those 2 series in the current series, which is Weddings by Design. It has 4 books. So if you count all of them totaled, you're looking at 10 books. And I'm looking at doing more sort of novella-length stories that are focused on holiday weddings. I'm doing a Christmas wedding story right now, and then I want to do a Valentine's wedding. So every couple of months, I'm hoping over the next year or so to just sort of keep the readers enticed with some sweet little stories about Bella.
That's fun.
How about a Groundhog Day wedding?
Oh, I'll have to pray about that one.
Have a little groundhog that pops out of the cake, right? And if he sees a shadow, you get, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started talking about cakes. We'll be here all night.
Well, and then Michelle said you do cakes yourself, is that right?
I do. It's a funny story, actually. I have 4 daughters, and all 4 daughters got married within 4 years of each other. And when the oldest one got married, we spent $500 on a wedding cake. Actually, I think we spent another $125 on a groom's cake. I don't know if you guys do groom's cakes where you are.
Yeah.
I found out from one of my sons-in-law who lives in Montana. They didn't even know what a groom's cake was. But anyway, I digress. So this first daughter, we spent $625 total on cake.
Wow.
Goodness.
Yeah. And we brought about 2/3 of that cake home with us after the wedding, and it ended up getting tossed, a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
So I said never again. And when daughter number 2 got married, about 4.5 months later, I asked her, I said, hey, would you let me at least try to see if I can buy the pans and do the cakes myself? And I did a little practice version of a wedding cake at her shower. It turned out it was a little messy, but it was okay. And then I had a couple of friends who had done some cake decorating, so they offered to help me with the decorating part. So I made the cake for her wedding. They decorated it, and it went great. So then when daughter 3 got married, we just made an assumption that I would make her cake. And then when daughter 4 got married, we just made an assumption I would make her cake. And somewhere in the middle of all that, one of my best friends got married, and she somehow got the idea that I made cakes. And then the next thing you know, the grandchildren start coming. And now, I have 8 grandchildren. That's 8 birthdays. And so we've had every conceivable type of cake, Disney or otherwise, that you could name. And Nina, that's me, Nina makes the cakes for all the grandbabies now. So it has morphed into a little cake baking extravaganza. I don't do it for income. And in fact, I'm going to bankrupt myself if I'm not careful making cakes for people, because it takes so many hours to put them together. But I find it very relaxing, very therapeutic. As my grandbaby said to me today when we were decorating cookies, she said, Nina, you're an artist. I said, Maddie, thank you so much. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me.
Yeah. Oh, how sweet. So right before this interview, Thane mentioned, from looking at the picture of you in the back of the book, that you've lost weight. I told him that you'd been working really hard on eating right and exercising, which is actually part of the journey that Scarlett goes on, and the icing on the cake. When I was reading it, I felt like I was reading part of your Facebook entries.
Oh, maybe you were, just a little.
That was fun.
Maybe just a little. Yeah, somebody asked me, one of my readers asked me, well, why did you put her on a diet in that book? Why did you make her want to face the weight issues? And the old me, probably 4 or 5 years ago, would have just written her to be, happy and plump and just enjoying life.
Yeah.
But the older I get, the more health issues I've had as a result of carrying too much weight.
Oh.
So because I know the reality of the hazards that can go along with that. I think that it was important. First of all, I think it was important for that character, Scarlett, to come to grips with the fact that she's loved just exactly like she is. And if she never changes one iota, it isn't going to change God's love for her, and it shouldn't change her perspective of herself. But on the other hand, I also know from personal experience how difficult it is to carry around a significant amount of weight. And I know that you just feel better when you're not dragging that much weight around. So I thought, well, it doesn't have to be like a major life overhaul. And in Scarlett's case, it isn't. In Scarlett's case, it's just a matter of acknowledging, I probably could stand to cut back a little bit. So that's pretty much why I decided to write that story the way I did, not to tell people, oh, you have to lose weight, but just really to start focusing on not just loving yourself, but on being healthy too.
I like that personal aspect in there. Do you notice yourself rubbing off on your characters or in your books just a little?
Oh, good gravy, yes. And it's so difficult when I'm writing in first person, which is what these books are. Yeah. It's so difficult not to put myself in the middle of those characters. The conversations. I'm working on a story right now, and I've got the Splendora sisters. You remember Twyla, Bonnie, Sue, Jolene?
Yes, I love them.
Thank you. Well, I've got this funny, crazy conversation going on with them, and I could not help but laugh as I was typing it. I was just carried away, and I'm like, this would just sound like some conversation I would have. Yeah. It's a funny scene where they're trying to figure out what the word vegan means, and what they're trying to figure out what gluten-free means. And one of them, I don't remember which one, says something about gluten-free. She says, yeah, I've been gluten-free ever since second grade when Joey made me drink a bottle of glue. I gave that.
Funny. I love it.
Yeah, I enjoy the funny part.
Yes. Let's see. What else do you do with your comedic gift?
Well, a lot of my readers don't realize that when I am not sitting at home writing books, and when I'm not taking care of grandbabies, and when I'm not making cakes, I direct at a local theater. I'm a theater director. And we are constantly putting on plays. And most of the plays that we do at our theater are plays that I've written or co-authored with a good friend of mine, Brenda White. And all of them are comedies. And it's funny, I was writing for the stage long before I was ever writing books. I grew up in theater. I was very active in theater in high school and in college. And then when I started writing these plays, there is something to be said for writing comedy and then sitting in the audience and listening to people laugh at something you've written. And you never know when you're sitting at your computer and you're typing something. It may sound funny to you, but until you put it out in front of an audience, you don't know if it's funny or not, right? Yes. I still remember those early days of putting on shows back in the 90s and sitting in the audience and hearing people just roar with laughter. There's such a sense of satisfaction to know that I made them laugh, I made them smile. It's also a great way to know what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like I can write something and think it's just hysterical, and then you get in the theater and it just deadpan faces, it doesn't work, and you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't the best line. Yeah. So it helps me with my books because then I'm getting a better feel for my writing voice, getting a better feel for how people are responding to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how that would help a lot.
Yeah, it does. We're doing a play right now. It's a Christmas play. And for the very first time in like a gazillion years, I'm actually in the play.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, this is a bold move on my part. I don't even know if I can memorize lines anymore. I'm getting old, you see.
I'm going to say, returning to the stage.
Now, did you write this play?
No, the one we're doing right now is the first and only one that I've helped direct that I really didn't have much of anything to do with the writing. This is a Christmas production that is more of a variety show in nature. It's got some sketches and it's got some, we have a large choir, a chorale doing several pieces. And then we've got some dance in it, and it's got a wide variety of things. It's going to be just beautiful.
That sounds like it'll be pretty.
I mean, if I remember my lines, it'll be just beautiful. If I don't remember my lines, it will be memorable for the audience.
It will be a comedy.
Yeah, whether it was meant to be or not.
What made you actually first decide to become an author, to start writing?
Well, they say, you're a writer if you can't not write. And you have to pardon the double negative there. But the truth is, writing is something that just pours out of you if you are a writer by nature. When I was young, I think I was probably about maybe 12, I was such an avid reader. I read everything I could get my hands on. I had read all the Bobbsey twins books, and I decided that I was going to write one because there were no more.
Yeah.
So I wrote a Bobbsey twins book when I was in 6th grade, when I was 12 years old. Yep. And then I mentioned doing theater when I was in high school. I wrote our senior, it was really a skit, but it was a pretty lengthy thing. And I co-authored that with some of my fellow students.
Wow.
Loved it. Then my dad wanted to write a screenplay. So when I was 19 or 20, he handed off that project to me, and we worked together on that. And from that point on, I wrote a variety of things. I wrote poetry. I wrote a lot of songs. I used to do a lot of, I led worship for a long time. And I wrote, I can't even tell you, probably 40 or 50 worship songs.
Wow.
Over the years. And then in 1990, I just got this idea. I'd always wanted to write a full-length musical.
Yeah.
And so, my best friend Kay and I got together one night, and we just put together a plan for a Christmas production for our church. And from the day I wrote that play, there was no looking back.
Oh.
It was play after play after play, and then it was book after book after book. And you get more confident as you go. And especially once the publication begins, you really get to the point where it's not as intimidating as it was when you were younger.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You have written and done a lot. That's awesome.
I love it though, and I wouldn't trade any of it in. I was sitting with my granddaughter today, and I was reading there's a series of children's books called The Camp Club Girls that I did for Barber Publishing years ago. And I did them long before I had grandchildren old enough to read, but it was so sweet today to have Maddie here, and she's not feeling well, so she was sitting on my lap in the rocking chair. And I read the first chapter of this book, and of course in my most theatrical voice.
Yeah.
And just to think that, God knew years ago when I sat down to write that book, he knew that one day, years later, I would be sitting with a granddaughter in my lap reading this story to her or with her, And it was just, I don't know, full circle. I love it.
That is neat.
What all genres have you written?
Oh, golly, it might be easier to tell you what I haven't written.
Oh, okay. Tell us what you haven't written.
I have not written sci-fi paranormal. I have not, nor will I ever write erotica.
Oh.
I have not,
That's
written anything. And I don't write thriller, suspense, anything like that. Basically, I do inspirational romance. I've done historical. I've done contemporary. I've done some young adult novels. I've done a series of novels for children it was a ghostwriting project that I did with, a sweet, sweet lady named Eleanor Clark. And, I've done tons of devotions. I probably have done 30 or 40 even devotional books for Barber Publishing. So I do a lot of nonfiction writing. I've done several full-length nonfiction books. I did one for empty nest moms. I've done a bride-to-be book that I co-authored with my daughter. I did a mommy-to-be book. So lots of nonfiction books that, a lot of my Bella readers probably don't even realize I've got all these nonfiction books out there.
Yeah. Which one is harder, the nonfiction or the comedy?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting question. If you had asked me that a few years ago, I would have said back then that writing novels was harder.
Yeah.
But now that I'm writing my novels in first person, they come a lot easier than they used to. I used to say that nonfiction was easy because nonfiction is just like talking or teaching, and I'm a teacher by nature. I've homeschooled my girls for 11 years and have homeschooled a variety of other children. And I've taught theater. I've taught all sorts of different types of classes. I've taught writing. So, nonfiction to me is sort of just like teaching was. It comes easy. But these days, maybe it's because I love my characters so much.
Yeah.
It's getting easier and easier to say, ooh, I prefer to do another Bella novel, or I prefer to do something else that's lightweight and comedic.
I can see that.
So what's the Janice Thompson novel? Like, if you wanted to get someone started, what would be the one to go to?
Everybody would say the same thing. Everybody would say Fools Rush In.
Well, there you go.
But you know what? There's another one. There's probably another one that is more me than the Bella books. I did a series of books. They were cozy mysteries that I did for Barbara years ago. And the very first book is called The Wedding Caper.
Oh.
And the main character in that story, Annie Peterson, is a mother of the bride who solves crimes on her way to the wedding.
Oh, fun.
She has 2 daughters who are both getting married. And I wrote those books right after my oldest 2 daughters got married. And it's a series of 5 books. And it's Wedding Caper, Gone with the Groom, The Perfect Match, Catering to Disaster. Anyway, you can look them up. There's a series of 5 of them.
Oh,
and
cool.
They are funny. And it was the very first thing that I ever wrote in first person. And I completely patterned the super sleuth, Annie Peterson, after me. My middle name is Anne.
Oh.
And so I named her Annie. And she even has 2 dachshunds, Sasha and Copper. And you can recognize those names if you follow me on Facebook, because those are my 2 dachshunds.
Those sound really good. So how long ago was that?
I think the first book in that series came out in 06 or 07. They were contracted in late 05, maybe early 06.
Okay. What was your favorite genre that you wrote, that you have written? Because you've written all over the place. What is your favorite?
I would say probably my favorite is contemporary inspirational romance, whether it's written in third person or first person, and really whether it's comedic or I play it straight.
Yeah.
It's easier to write in a contemporary story. I love the historicals too.
Yeah.
And of course, all my historicals are in third person. I can't even imagine doing a first person historical.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that doing historicals is a lot of work.
Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, I'm going to write a historical and set it on board the Titanic without, you know what I'm saying, without doing a tremendous amount of research. And then you had better be careful what you put in there, because you're going to get called on the rug for every little slip up. Trust me.
Yeah.
Every little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what really intimidates me about writing historical. It would involve
I
so
love
much.
it, but I tell you what, you can get caught up in the research and forget you're even writing a novel. You can just be like so wound up over what you're researching that it's like, wow, this is so cool. And then it's like 3 hours have gone by and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be writing something.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun when you were doing the Titanic one, and shared the pictures and some of your research on the way on Facebook. That was really neat. I liked looking through all that stuff and seeing where you were going and
yeah. Our virtual cruise, I had the time of my life. Yeah, that's a funny story. I had a friend on Facebook. She tried to talk me into doing an anniversary cruise, a Titanic anniversary cruise. And I'm like, girl, you would have to be crazy. I would not get on any real ship that had anything to do with the Titanic.
No kidding.
Or otherwise. I said, but you know what? I could do a virtual cruise. And that's how that whole Facebook Titanic group came about.
Yeah.
It was a blast watching all of those people post their photos of the dresses they were going to wear to the dinner, or, you know, list the menus of the food choices they were going to have in third class that night. And I don't know, I just loved play acting, you know, and that's what I do.
Yes.
We put on a theatrical.
That's right. Do you still teach classes online? That's how we got to know you. I don't know if all of our listeners, there we go, thank you, know that. But besides reading your book, I took a class by you, and that's how Thane and I started writing together. Do you still teach those classes online, or have you stepped away from that because your life has just gotten way busier?
Funny you should ask. I have not recorded any of those classes, and they were recorded and they are still available, but I haven't done one for probably a year or more, in part because my best friend got very ill back in February, and I wanted to spend every minute that I could with her, and she passed away the day after Mother's Day from pancreatic cancer. So, and I also had some health issues going on this past year that kind of took me out of the game for a little while. So I was forced to step back, but All of those courses are still available online, including the newest one, which was a nonfiction course, and they're at freelancewritingcourses.com, and they're all still there and available for download. And I had a blast, actually. I probably had way too much fun coming up with those courses. I don't know anybody who loves to teach. And again, it's like writing a historical. All of this research goes into it and preparing lessons. You know, if you've ever taught, that getting ready for something is half the fun.
Yeah, we're both teachers, actually.
Oh, and you know how it is, though, when you really, really get excited about a subject matter and you can't wait to share it with somebody else, it comes naturally. You can get burned out just as quickly. I know that. And it does go in seasons. I really think my season for teaching, I think I'm on a sabbatical from that pretty much now.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, NaNoWriMo. I was going to ask you, are you doing NaNoWriMo this year?
I have never done it before, but I am doing it for the very first time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, very first time ever. And I am, of course, working on more Bella story as I am writing my Nano. I figure,
Yeah, you could easily write that in a month. So you know your characters.
Yeah. But you know what I like about the Nano thing is so many of us are working simultaneously. Like you can talk to so many different people and everybody's like, are you doing Nano? Yeah, I'm doing Nano. Are you doing Nano? So all these different people are doing it and they are inspiring one another. And that has been a good thing for me right now because I'm waiting right now on a contract for a new series with Revell. And we're not even 100% sure what that new series is going to be.
Oh.
Yeah, so I didn't want to start on that. I've given a proposal and some ideas, but because I don't know for sure which one of my ideas they're going to buy, I didn't want to start on that. So I said, well, I know Bella. I can just keep her going. So
It could be your first science fiction one, right?
Or not.
Or not, yeah.
That's funny. I'm doing a romance novel with comedic aspects to it, which is going to be really hard.
Hard for you to be funny?
Yeah. I'm scared about that. And Thane is doing a steampunk novel. Have you ever heard of steampunk?
Okay, I had not heard of steampunk until about 2 months ago when my BFF Kathleen Barbo, who is a fabulous writer, she starts posting all this stuff on Facebook about her steampunk novel. I'm like, girl, I don't mean to play the fool here, but could you please clue me in? What the heck are you talking about? So she told me about steampunk, and I said, oh. Well, I didn't even know that's what it was called. I mean, I saw that in her novels. I saw where she was adding all these cool gadgets and gizmos and things back, you know, she writes historicals, of course. But it took a little explanation for me to get it. You know.
Yeah. So he's having me read his as he goes so that I could tell him if it's okay or not.
And how's he doing?
Oh, he's doing good. And then I write mine, and I'm like, you're going to get so sick reading this. This is pure romance.
Well, then mine does involve a lot of historical stuff, so I'm like, oh, wait, would that be there? Okay, now I got to go look at the Yukon River map, and then I have to do this. So I totally know what you were talking about earlier with the historical thing. Cause it's like,
you do, but with steampunk, at least you have the freedom to throw in some random things that would no more be accurate than anything. You know, but that's what makes steampunk.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. There is one question I like to ask everybody that we interview. How do you like your coffee? Or do you drink it anymore?
How do I like my coffee? When I have my coffee, first of all, one thing, it has to be very, very weak.
Yes.
Very weak. And then the second thing, it has to be very sweet.
Oh, yeah.
And then the third thing, and it's a diet wrecker, but I love Italian sweet cream creamer.
Oh, yes.
So not only does it have to have Splenda in it, it has to have Italian sweet cream creamer, but I do 1 teaspoon because it's got like 85 gazillion calories. Yeah. So weak and sweet. And to me, it's really, I guess, more of a, what would that be, a latte or something that's just creamy?
Did you want to share anything else?
Well, speaking of ADD, and you guys might know this because you followed me on Facebook, I really do believe that having ADD has been a lifesaver for me as a writer. I really do. I think some of that popcorn thinking that goes along with having ADD is the reason that I have won over so many readers with the comedies.
Yeah.
Because if you look at how a comedy is structured, there's a lot of white space on the page. In comedies, the lines are shorter. There's not a lot of narrative. It's popcorny. It just pops along. Yeah. And then punchline at the end of all that popping dialogue. It's like go, 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 punchline. Go, 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 punchline.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that works so well for me, and maybe the reason that it feels more authentic, is just simply because that's how I'm wired. God made me this way. I used to really fight it, but now I don't fight it anymore. Now I'm just very, very grateful.
Yeah.
And you learn, as with anything you face in life, you learn how to overcome your challenges and to do better. And I have learned how to write with ADD. If you could see the way I put together my stories, you would be mesmerized. That's a good word. Because I'll work on one scene and then I'll just popcorn over to another scene that isn't going to take place until several chapters later, and then I'll ping pong back to another one, and it's all over the place. And then I just sort of glue them all together, and I'm like, oh, this would go okay over here, and this scene where he, falls down the well would be great over there, and this one where she's over here doing this would be great in chapter 12, and
that's
awesome.
That's
I don't know. I've learned to work it to my advantage, I think.
And you have enough experience writing. That was one question we forgot to ask. How many novels have you written?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't tell you how many novels. I can tell you how many books, because the only reason I even know this is because when I was at a marketing seminar this past weekend, I was looking at my spreadsheet. I keep a spreadsheet of all of my sales numbers for my agent.
Oh, yeah.
And if you count all of the Write for Hire books, which is my devotionals, and if you count the ones I did the ghostwriting projects on, and if you count novels and nonfiction books, then the book I'm working on right now is number 100.
Awesome.
Oh. So that stood out to me. I was like, whoa, is that really where we are? And I counted them one by one just to make sure. I'm like, holy cow. I'm number one. And then my next thought was, well, heck, no wonder I'm so tired.
Wow. Speaking of which, I know you've got to be tired after having such a long day.
Thank you so much for letting us interview you.
Oh, are you kidding? Thank you for having me. I've had a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you again for being such great, just great proponents of Christian writing, and for doing what you guys do. I've so appreciated getting to know you, and thank you for helping me spread the word, not just about my courses, but the books, and just about writing in general. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, thank you. You are too. Okay, have a good evening.
All right.
Yeah. And that concludes this podcast. Be sure to watch for our next interview in February.
Yes, it will be with Randall Arthur, who is the author of Wisdom Hunter, Jordan's Crossing, Brotherhood of Betrayal, and his latest one, Forgotten Road.
And to learn more about Janice, you can visit her website at janicethompson.com.
Be sure to check out our contest page at tmwoodsbooks.com/blog/contest for rules on how to win Janice's book, The Dream Dress, the Kindle edition. That's it for today.